All right, everybody, we are live. I'm gonna need to fix that. But how are y'all doing? And Merry Christmas to y'all. This is Irv Martin here. We are going ahead and having a great time. We're going to be showing you some pre-cooking stuff. That's how you plan a big holiday feast. I think I have about 20 people coming tomorrow. And so I just like to welcome you all. I'm going to be doing live streaming today and tomorrow. And so first we're going to begin with what is on the menu right now. And so let's switch to our handy dandy phone cam. So here we have, as they always say, failing to plan is planning to fail. So here is the menu for today's work that we're going to be doing. Right now I'm going to show you guys how to make lots of apple pies, and I think we're going to make that M&M cookie cake, and maybe if we have enough time, I might have to take a break. We'll do the pineapple upside down cake in the live stream. But as you can see, I have my board. As you notice, there's not a lot of times because I'm just kind of doing everything to prep for tomorrow. There's a lot of things like cider and turkey broth and chopping all sorts of stuff that we'll be doing. And then for the main coup de grace, this is what we're doing for Christmas. This will happen tomorrow. I might move one or two of the items into today. But maybe I just have to decide how I feel. So we're going to start with we're going to make broth. Broth is the most important thing if you're making turkey. I use it throughout the day. Some mulled apple cider, hibiscus tea was a big hit, and we're going to do our boozy collard greens. We're doing a honey baked ham. I call it honey jubilation ham. And we're doing some barbecue meatballs, dressing, baked brie. We're going to fry turkey, and we're going to have a Spanish paella. And I may make that today, but we'll decide. We have artichoke dip and some cheesy dips. These are the appetizers, scotch eggs, potatoes, and stuffed mushrooms. And then I have some mixed veggies, actually. I just noticed that's hiding here. um, and we're going to have pasta bolognese. So I got Santa Claus brought me a pasta bolognese, a fresh pasta maker. So we'll be making some fresh pasta today, and then boiling it tomorrow and serving it with the bolognese sauce that we make. So this is, like I said, this is Christmas planning. And to pull something off like this, you have to bring your plans into bear. Let's go back to the main scene. So, as I said, failing to plan is planning to fail. So we're going to start today's cooking with making apple pies. So we're going to start with my famous apple pie recipe, which starts with um, lots of apples. I think I'm going to be making at least two or three of them. So over here you see all this sort of mess. This is apples and oranges right here. So and then I don't make my own pie crust because I don't get a lot. I actually found this set at Sam's for $8, which is four pie crust. This is eight pie crusts, so this makes four pies alone by itself. And so we're going to be working this. Feel free to ask questions and stuff like that online. And somebody's asking me something, and so I've got to figure out what that is. And gotta figure out how to get out of this app and turn that off. There we go. Because I can't see what's going on in there. And it's responding to some questions in there. And I'm going to try to see in my other app if I get to see all of your beautiful chats in there. And there we go. And we're going to be killing that app because it's going to get annoying on my computer. All right, now, excellent. All right, so let's get started with making our apple pies right now. So we start. Oh, there's feedback. Um, let's see. I got to figure out why there is feedback. monitor. Let's see, desktop audio. There shouldn't be any desktop audio, so I'm going to turn that off. Ah, I see where it is. It's coming from one of the cameras, and so that needs to be muted. Lauren, can you tell me if you still hear feedback, and IM me that or put that in the thing? I just noticed one of my cameras was actually giving feedback into here because the camera is not supposed to be recording sound. Excellent. I should check those settings when you start live streaming. I just got a brand new computer, so my old computer had my setup, and Santa got me a new streaming computer. And one of the problems I had is it wasn't, that's what was happening in Thanksgiving, so I switched computers. And so I think I forgot to set that up, so that's my fault. All right, so we're going to start with making our apple pies. And one of the things I like to do, let's see if this works. Oh, good. So you guys can see the areas. We're making a lot, so we're going to start with a lot of apples and oranges. So we're going to start by squeezing a couple of oranges. And so I have this handy dandy orange juicer. And we're going to take this out of the way for a second. So got a couple of oranges. Why do we do that? Oranges and apples actually go very well together. People think, you always say things like, oh, it's like apples and oranges as if they don't go together. That's actually the worst phrase ever, because apples and oranges were made to go together. They actually grow at the same time. They ripen. That's when you typically pick them up. And it's kind of good. So let's have a couple more oranges in the back. We're going to do, we're going to need about probably a cup of orange juice, if not more, preferably freshly squeezed. You can do the store-bought stuff, but it's not going to taste good. As Alton Brown would say, that's just not good eats. I'm just saying, that's just not really good eats. So we're going to cut a couple of these. And I actually got these. These are very interesting. They're blood oranges, and they taste delicious. They have no seeds or anything. But I have my automated juicer, but I didn't need that much of it. But we're going to juice some of these oranges. And why do we need to do this first? Because when we start cutting the apples and peeling them, we'll just put them in the bowl. You want to prevent the apples from turning brown. That's a chemical reaction with oxygen that happens with apples. That's why it turns brown immediately. And the way you stop that is that you need to add an acid, ACID, an acid. And, well, you can't do things like hydrochloric acid, which is in your stomach, because that's going to eat through things. That's kind of a bad thing. But we can do an acid that is edible, and that is citric acid. And so citric acid is what we're going to use. So you can use any citrus to do this. I like oranges. A lot of apple pie recipes call for lemon juice. That will do the trick, but I actually have found the sweetness of the oranges adds to the sweetness of the apples, and it just gives it such a beautifully unique flavor. Everybody who's had my pie says that they consider it kind of deadly, in a good way. I'm trying to check to see, is my chat window? Okay, that's what I need to do. I need to move these windows around. Yep, let's get that in there so I can see everything you guys are saying. Good. And we're going to go to Facebook. I'm back on my computer really quick because I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And because I have to look across the stream. There we go. And there we are. Okay, so that's what I thought. I needed to keep Facebook open because a lot of you are watching me on Facebook and I cannot see your questions because my little tool is not moving the chats together. So I'm going to keep the screen together side by side. That way I can kind of see what's going on. And that should get everything working better, assuming that Windows does not try to be too smart because it tends to think it is smarter than it is. There we go. Alrighty.
Alrighty.
Excellent. So now, going
Excellent. So
back to
now,
where we
going
were,
back to where we were,
we're going to be
we're going to
squeezing
be
our
squeezing our
lemons and, I'm
lemons
sorry,
and
oranges.
I'm sorry,
And as I was
oranges.
saying,
And as I was saying,
oranges are like the
oranges
best
are
flavor
like the
in
best
here.
flavor
You could
in
do
here. You could do
around the early
around
fall
the early
here in
fall
Houston,
here in
Texas, which is,
Houston,
by the way, it's
Texas, which is,
incredibly
by the
cold.
way, it's
It's just
incredibly
above
cold. It's
freezing right
just
now. I
above
think it's
freezing right
34
now. I think it's
outside.
34
We just
outside.
had a
We
horrible
just
Arctic
had a
blast. I don't know
horrible
where you
Arctic
guys
blast.
are.
I
I
don't know
hope you
where
guys
you guys
survived
are.
the
I hope you guys
cold
survived the
apocalypse, as I like
cold
to call it.
apocalypse, as I like to call it.
Um,
Um,
but around
but around
early fall, not in
early
the
fall,
winter,
not in the winter,
um,
um,
people
people
uh,
uh,
your camera on the
your
oranges
camera
has the
on the
mic on.
oranges has the
I
mic
have
on.
turned all
I
of
have
them
turned
off.
all
Oh,
of
there
them
it is. It
off.
turned itself back on in the main screen. I see what happens. Okay, I need to fix that in all the scenes. All right, give me all a quick second. You're
Quick
gonna
second,
see a
you're
whole bunch
gonna
of stuff
see a
that you're
whole
not
bunch of
supposed
stuff.
to see. So we're just gonna turn the sound off everywhere. You're, I see what happened. Again, this was fixed in my old computer, and let's make sure the phone cam sound is off. And there we go. All right. All right, so I think y'all can see me here. I have turned off all camera sounds. So thanks, Lauren, and for letting me know that. I know there's a more elegant way uh, of doing that, but that was the only way I could figure out how to do it is just manually go into each scene and turn it off. At least good times. I'm a new streamer, so we have fun things going on. All right. As I was saying, in the fall, there's a special type of orange called a Mineola Tangelo. Tangelos are tangerines and oranges kind of combined, and the Mineola Tangelo is makes the most amazing apple pie. I can only find them here in Texas around the September-October timeframe, and then they just kind of disappear. So as you can see, we've made a lot and we're getting more, just one more. Again, like I said, these are the blood oranges. I have a few oranges that I had from weeks before, but I got those blood oranges, a giant 6-pound bag at Sam's for like $8. I was a little surprised they were that cheap. There we go. And the juice is really sweet. I used the oranges for the turkey. So I actually normally brine my turkey in with this show, but I actually did that yesterday because I actually want the meat to be really soft and tender and juicy. So I went ahead and brined my turkey last night and did some prep work yesterday. So yeah, call it cheating. I didn't care. I had time, and it was actually the best thing to do. So, anywho. Um, Uh, and there's just that guy howdy here. It's awesome. All right. And I'm just gonna get that in there. Perfect. Um, there we go. Last orange. And hopefully this will be, if this is too much juice, the good thing is I use oranges throughout. Orange juice is going to be, you notice there's a sangria that I make fresh sangria that requires fresh orange juice. So does the cranberry sauce. So does a couple other things. So having orange juice on hand, like turkey broth, is one of the big things that I do in my cooking. And so I'm just trying to get all this to drain into the, there we go. Yep. All right. Now we have our oranges. The next thing we're going to do is, I might move my camera. So I recycle these trash bags. I find it is easier to peel your apples straight into a trash bag rather than going into your sink because it just makes it easier to get rid of. So I'm going to bring a couple of my apples right here. These are the older apples. I actually had these since a few days after Thanksgiving. Put them in the fridge because I had extra. Um, and so we are going to do that. And so let's go get our peeler. I have one of these, I think it's called Rubicon. It's the best peeler I've ever seen. So they last for years. Um, I've had them. I just bought a new set a year ago because after 10 years, my first root cons are there. Yeah, it looks crazy. They're like these plastic. They're the best peelers. You've hardly ever. It won't slip so that it cuts your finger. It's kind of amazing. So, and I just peel the apples straight into the trash bag. Just makes it easier to dispose, and then just toss the trash bag in the trash. So if you compost, I used to compost. It was a little complicated because my compost was not decomposing. I had to go add stuff, and since I'm not gardening right now, um, garden's overgrown while I get my fence repaired. I decided, yeah, we'll compost again once I start my garden back because I have a giant container in the back. But yeah, if you have a composter, you can empty this in there. So I like to peel a couple of these before I slice them. And y'all may be wondering what kind of apples to use. So these particular are Cosmic Crisps. This is going to be a mixed apple pie. Cosmic Crisp have been on sale recently. Honey Crisp tastes amazing. Um, uh, Gala apples. Um, let's see, there's an envy apple. Those are very expensive apples, and so if they go on sale, the best apple I have found to use, which is funny because they always advertise that it has zero nutritional content compared to most other apples, because as you know, they genetically modify this. The best apple to use for apple pie is not Granny Smith. It's actually something called the Golden Delicious. They're usually always available. They're always on sale. They make some of the best apple pies I've ever had. The Golden Delicious, as they're turning. I wouldn't use a Granny Smith unless you're making a tart because they actually are tart flavored. They're little. They hold their shape the best. They have the best shape. That's why I feel like a Golden Delicious is better because a Golden Delicious apple is kind of a hybrid between one of the red apples and a Granny Smith. It holds its shape beautifully in a pie, and it's there. Never, ever, ever use a red delicious apple. Red delicious are the worst apples out there. They're only good. I actually think they're only good for making applesauce, but I don't know. Red delicious apples. If you ever go to NPR, you'll actually learn there's a story of how that breed came to be. And they named it that way so that they could do the apple a day keeps the doctor away because they actually don't taste too bad, but they're terrible for cooking. They're not, I mean, I don't think they taste awful. They don't taste the best. I think there's better versions, like the Honeycrisp is really good, but they're very expensive. Um, but they don't hold their shape at all, so they just dissolve into goo. So you don't get chunks of apple. So never use a red delicious apple in any form of cooking, unless you're making a sauce or and not even a compote. If you're doing a compote, which means you want chunks of apples, like for pork or something like that, you need to use an apple that holds its shape under pressure when it's cooked. And so that's not red delicious. Um, uh, I would recommend, again, Golden Delicious apples work, Cosmos Crisp work, and yes, the way you test to see if an apple is good is by tapping it, just like that. If you hear that hollow sound, that is a good apple. If you don't, put that apple back into the bunch. So we've peeled a couple of these, and after this one, I'm going to start slicing um, in there. Any questions that we have? Just see a howdy. And oh, yep. And nothing here in Fluton. All right, that is good. That's good. Um, it's Leslie. Hi, Leslie. Um, Great seeing you guys. I have to talk to my guys at Fluton. You may be wondering what's Fluton. It's a tool that I use that lets me multi-stream. And it's supposed to aggregate all the chats into one spot, and it does not do Facebook at all. So I have to keep Facebook open somewhere else so I can actually see what you guys are saying or anything like that. If you're on Twitch watching me, I will see your stuff in my normal tool. I'm using Streamlabs. All right, so for a second, we are going to go ahead and start. Oh, that is the wrong knife. That knife is too big. I will slice my fingers off. I use my smaller knife right here um, to do this. I'm not a big fan of the apple cores. By the way, I put the little trash bag in the sink. It just makes it easier. I'm not a big fan of the apple cores. They don't, because apples, the core is never perfectly aligned in the center. So if you use that thing that separates the apples into like, 8 little pieces, you're going to miss it, and it's just easier to cut them. I usually do this V that I'm doing right now and just chip the other end off and like, this little nub. I will be eating it because apples are delicious. Oh, these Cosmic Crisps are really good. All right. And I said I'm probably making 2 or 3 pies. I'll see. Depends on how this works out. So bought a lot of apples in these last couple of days. So how have y'all been doing surviving the apocalypse? For those of you here in Texas, Louisiana, and the South, and definitely the North, I think only Florida, parts of Florida, escaped this crazy snow, ice, cold Mageddon. And if you're further north, I have friends in Chicago and Boston and New York and even Vermont. I'm sure you look at us Texans and we're like, what are y'all whining? It's just at freezing. Good God, they're in the negatives. But we're not built for this here in Texas. We really aren't. We just aren't. We're just not built for any of this. We're designed to have things warm. We know how to deal with hurricanes and tornadoes. We really don't know how to deal with cold, especially as far south here as Houston, Texas. We just really don't know what to do with it. My I, my friend Lawrence from New York, and when we had the last one, she's like, "What is this? It's just like a light ice storm." I was like, "Well, we don't have salt and we don't have plows in this town, so." That causes, when we have an ice Mageddon storm, that causes issues. So I hope you all are okay. You're warm and toasty. Um, where I live, I'm lucky that no power fails. So we had heat. My heater did fail, and I just had it repaired this morning. It wouldn't turn off. It wouldn't. It's a weird thing. It wouldn't blow downstairs, but it would blow upstairs. So at least part of my house was warm. In fact, it was incredibly warm, and I'd have to turn it on and off so we wouldn't die in the upstairs. That's where our bedrooms are. So, but it'd be freezing downstairs, and so they have just fixed that for a chunk of change. So, I hope you guys see what I'm doing. Again, I like to have slices that are about a 1/4 inch thick, um, maybe an eighth of an inch. And so I always core this by cutting it into and I'm doing it over the trash, as you can see. I like to core that and then of course remove this little nub. You want to get the seeds, as the seeds do have a little bit of cyanide in them. You're not going to get killed by eating an apple seed. It's so little cyanide, but it's not, you just don't want the seeds. As Alton Brown from the famous show Good Eats would say, those are not good eats. So to quote Alton, we're working right now on the software, because he will talk about, the software is the actual ingredients, the hardware is your tools and your utensils. But as you can see, I'm just making slices. On Sometimes I will cut on a diaz so that we have, what do I mean by diaz? So this is a straight cut right here. This is a on the diaz right here. And I alternate because I actually have found that people having different chunks as you mix the apples together, which we're going to do, you get a different and very interesting mouth feel. It also helps you line them up, so I like to mix it up a little bit. All right, so now that we've gotten some of this here, we have 2 apples left that I've peeled, but we're going to be peeling more. It is time, because it's going to start turning brown. To prevent that from happening, hey, we have our handy dandy orange juice that we've just freshly squeezed. Look at that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So we're just gonna put that in here, as you guys can see, um, and just get it covered, and they will not turn brown. So that's why you have your orange juice handy. Typically, you don't want too much orange juice, otherwise it will spill out of your pie when you bake it. A little spillage is okay, but you do not want a volcano in your oven because when apple pie, you're going to add sugar. So sugar heated up turns into caramel, which turns into burnt caramel, and that sticks in your oven like cement. So you don't want that. When you bake a pie, you always put a pan underneath it to make sure it doesn't overflow into your oven and burn and cause a, well, it won't cause a fire, it will just cause a smoke and your smoke detectors go off. And that has happened. And that is not fun. And everybody in the house freaks out. What the heck's going on? Because, you know, something spilled out of the pan. So you want to add, if you were going to do a normal pie, a normal single pie, for me, and I do deep dish pies. I do not believe in regular dish pies. You need to get a 9-inch deep dish pie pan. A normal pie is about 6 to 8 apples. Um, six very enormous large apples, eight maybe 10 small apples when they're very tiny, not crab apples, but you guys know what I mean by the small apples. Um, because I like to heap it over the top of the pie because what happens is the pie loses the water. That's the other reason why you don't want too much orange juice. As it bakes, the pie releases, apples release their water into the mixture and then coagulate with the thickening agent that you add. Um, and so you just don't want any spillage. Spillage bad. Spillage is bad. Let's see, refresh. Just seeing what comments are coming in. And I'm not seeing anything. Anyway, um, just checking in on you guys, making sure everything's going okay. Um, so I hope all of you are okay from this Armageddon that's happening, the apocalypse, as I've been calling it for the last days. Because if you're here in Texas, I mean, listening to the news, good God, it's been crazy. But we're all having PTSD from the snowstorm from Valentine's Day of 2021. I mean, I had 7 inches of water that came to me. It took a long time, so there's a little bit of PTSD um, from that. But a big part of why that happened and it was ridiculous, don't get me wrong, is that the generators were underprepared. They never winterized, and when they have precipitation, the actual ice, as opposed to just cold temperatures, seized up the gears in a lot of the gas lines, and that caused the generators to fail. We have enough potential generation, but when they seize up and fail, then that generation is nothing. So, as I used to work in the power company when I was in college, and so I worked in the power distribution part of that power company for Southern Company. And so I unfortunately actually knew exactly what was happening when that happened, and I couldn't believe the state hadn't prepared for that. That was sad. Okay, as I said, as you add new apples, just swirl it into the juice. If there's not enough juice in there, add a little bit more. And because, like I told you, I'm making at least 2 or 3, we're going to be filling this bowl with a lot of apples. So it's okay for me to add more. I just eyeball it. I just want a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see that pooling. I'm going to try to bend. Um, I think you can see that water right here, the pooling at the bottom. Maybe I bring it closer. And so you just want a light pooling, barely an eighth of an inch of pooling in there. So that was our first set of apples, and now we're going to go to the next. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Here's from the original batch from Thanksgiving. Again, these are golden delicious apples. Um, so just use what you got. Does it matter if the apples aren't consistent? No, not really. Um, all you want is you want a consistent firmness for the most part, and most if it's not if a Granny Smith is incredibly firm, and it will stick out. Golden Delicious is a little softer, so things like Cosmic Crisp, Galas, Fuji apples, all very good for pies. Fuji's are not as sweet, and so you probably have to add a little bit more sugar. They're incredibly nutritious apples, but they're not as sweet for a pie, but they hold their shape really well. Great for a compote if you're going to do that for pork. Oftentimes there's that apple thing on the side of pork dishes. That's called a compote. Um, Great for that, but you just need to add a lot more sugar. Um, to compensate for the lack of sweetness in the apples. And if your juice is not sweet, like you actually use oranges, like I tell you, but your orange juice is not sweet, you also have to adjust for add a little bit more sugar. When you add a little bit more sugar, you will have to add a little bit more thickening agent. And you all are wondering what that comes in a second, but the best thickening agent for apple pie is not flour. It is not what you think Argo starch or just cornstarch. The actual best thickening agent is something called tapioca. That is how you get that nice gooey consistency that you see in store-bought apple pie. That sort of how it glazed. That is comes from using tapioca as your thickening agent. And something I learned a couple of years ago. They sell that in the grocery stores. So here we have this set is Smitten apples, SMITTN. I think these come from New York, and they were on sale. So they're very much similar to the Cosmic Crisp, um, but a little sweeter. And so we're peeling. Again, like I said, somebody asked what kind of peeler. Rukon. Um, I'm sorry, it's KUHNRICORIKON. Kun Recon. You get them from the rainforest. Those of you who don't know, that's my nickname for Amazon.com. I call it the rainforest. They're about $8 to $10 for a set of three, and they're awesome. They hold in your hand really well, never slip. I use these for my potatoes and apples, and even when I make um, what do you call it? Butternut squash soup. You get peeled butternuts. They they have this really thin carbon steel blade here, and as you can see how thin that comes off when you do it. Again, I'm just doing this inside of my sink. It's just easier, which might be a little off camera. Oh, actually, I just realized I can actually turn this here. No, the camera's being weird. Oh, I have to move the gimbal. I'll leave it where it is. And just kind of keep panning back. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, hope everybody's getting what they want for Christmas. Uh, as I like to say, Santa Moo, which is me, has bought Moo, which is also me. Yes, I'm talking in third person. A lot of fun things for this Christmas. One of them is this laptop, which it seems to be working really well. Um, and getting my camera set up for this kitchen studio. One of the things I want to do in 2023 is more streaming. I want to sort of do this on a regular basis now that I've gotten my equipment. I just got this thing to help with the switching. So it helps me use my ancient Android phone that was just kind of sitting around for no reason. And I can use it now as my switcher. That will let me go between the scenes. You see, this is how I'm able to do this in one-handed, and I can do the close-up and stove, which we're going to have that view in a quick second when we start putting things together. So my hope is I would like to do, it's sort of aspirational, but I'd like to do a cooking show, teach you guys kind of what I know on a either weekly or twice weekly basis. And so we'll see how that works out. It's taken a while to get all the gear that I needed to get to where I want to be, and so I want to do that. Show you what I've learned from the Queen of Cooking, Miss Julia Child. Uh, French cooking. She has a whole bunch of recipes that I've tried and adapted a little bit from her, and yeah, just kind of do a couple of things and maybe do some cook-offs and some other stuff. So that's my goal for 2023. I'd like to try to keep doing this more often, not just for the holidays. So we'll see what happens. You guys start somewhere. Yeah, let's do that coring right there. So this is the not so fun part of cooking is all the prep work you got to do. And so type in chat what are you guys doing for this Christmas holiday? I'd like to know. Uh-oh, something popped up and I don't know what that was. On Let me see. How do I refresh the ch Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how do you refresh things in Facebook. Facebook's annoying. I gotta talk to them about why uh, that's in there. But it is what it is. It's going back to fluting. Yep, no issues. Perfect. Um, Looks like the stream is still holding. Unlike my Thanksgiving stream, there was issues. Oh, my old computer, poor old thing. I didn't realize it did, even though it's a Core i7 Intel, which is what I thought, I didn't realize the processor speed was as slow as it was, and that the NVIDIA graphics card in it was like cheap. So it was not, it was not handling all my devices and processing them. So, and so, mhm. And I'm just gonna keep going. Seriously, in chat, wait, tell me what you guys get doing for Christmas. I'd love to know. Some of you are coming to my house tomorrow for Christmas dinner, but you know, a lot of you I'm not going to see. Like, I thought I saw Ben in here, and so I miss you, Ben. I miss seeing you every day, every couple of days. I hope your company's treating you well. But yeah, what are y'all doing? Put in chat. I'd like to know. Inquiring minds want to know. uh, so, anywho, uh, and my husband's busy wrapping presents and stuff, so he just did an amazing job on the tree. The tree looks, um, just finished up the tree. He's been working on that for over a week, and the outside decorations. I feel like I don't do any of that because that's his thing. Um, I feel like we're the house of the what do they call themselves? What do they call themselves? The Griswolds. Yes, the Griswolds. I feel like I'm the, I feel like I'm that house. Oh my gosh, it's just crazy. But it looks gorgeous, and all before the freeze happened, and then we worked on the inside of the house, so it's like Christmas threw up everywhere in this house. So those of you visiting, you're gonna be, you'll get a treat. And so, my husband has been asked, I think he's gonna dress up like Santa Claus for church this evening, because he has a white beard. So I think he's gonna, for the kids service, he's going to be Santa Claus. I'm not quite sure. He did that last year, so um, we will find. I'm not quite sure. I find these things out at the last minute. There we go. Choppity chop chop. Oh, one thing to make sure, if you cook a lot like I do, um, I have dedicated these cutting boards. So you notice this is the purple cutting board. That is what I use. That is dedicated for non-smelly things. So fruit and vegetables that have no odor or less lingering odor. You will never see me do garlic or onions on on this cutting board because it kind of just seeps into the board, and you have to like dishwash it a lot to get that smell. You do not want your apple pie tasting like onions and garlic. That, as Alton Brown would say, is not good eats. So if you can do that, you know, get another cutting board so that, or make sure you have disinfected and um, uh, made the cutting board, as the medical people would like to say, anosmic, which means you cannot smell it. Uh, Anosmia is the disease where you don't have a sense of smell. So we are here with we're about to fill this bowl even more. This amount of apples right now is about 1.5 pies. It's not even two. So that's, again, I'm adding more orange juice because, like I said, that whole thing is probably going to go in here. But again, like I said, as you add more apples, just toss them into the juice with your hands. Just keep tossing. It's all good. Here we go. All right, time for some more apples. So let's see, what's the new set? That's one of the Smittens. Oh, okay, it's just a bag of Smittens. Okay, bag of Smittens right here. Um, so, woohoo. And we're just gonna keep peeling. And there we go. And so a couple of things we're gonna be making after we put the pies in, because um, is uh, is a Spanish paella, and so I put this here. I learned how to make that from a grandmother in Spain during the pandemic. So I don't know if Airbnb still has these, but basically during the pandemic in 2020, I say it as if the pandemic is over, and I don't know what this period of time we're in is called, but I'm basically referring to 2020. Um, Nobody's traveling. We're all in lockdown. And so those people who would depend on travel for their livelihoods, like, were out of luck. And so Helena, her name is Helena Sanchez, she's in Barcelona, Spain. I don't know if Helena, if you watch the stream, she would have these cooking shows, and Airbnb created this concept called online experiences. So there's a whole bunch of cooking experiences and other people doing stuff. A lot of Broadway people would do concerts and things. I got to meet the genie from the current version of Aladdin that's on Broadway right now. He's amazing. He got a and you just pay, something. And so the Spanish cooking class was amazing. So we learned how to make uh, mixta, which is what we're going to do at mixta paella. And I actually took another Spanish class from another Spanish grandma. She lives in the um, is it the Pyrenees? Close to the mountains, so she's not in Madrid, or she's out there in a beautiful place, but she has this chalet that people can rent and stuff like that. So, and she's a great cook, and so she taught me tapas. And I learned how to make 5 tapas dishes. One of them is uh, a Spanish omelet. And that's one of the things we're going to be doing here. So we're going to have food from the world here. We're going to have a little Italian, a little American, a little Spanish, um, and a little Nigerian, as most of you know. But if you didn't, I am actually from Nigeria. I'm a naturalized American citizen. I've been here most of my life, so um, I'm in my 40s now. I've lived in the U.S. for 35 years, so um, we have this phrase in Texas. I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. That's kind of kind of me as well. And so I'm noticing a few of these spitting apples don't really have that big a core. Kind of fascinating to me. Not much seeds. I don't know if that's something they did in the genetic altering and the hybridization of this apple. I'm by no means an appleologist. That's what they call themselves. That knows literally everything about apples. I just know enough to be dangerous because I make pie all the time. Gotta know what you need to make pie, don't you? And that's actually what matters. And so, hold on a sec. It's my caregiver taking care of my mom. She's stepping out for a minute. Just watching the time. Yeah, we're right there on time. Yeah, this is again the non-fun part of this, which is all of the coring. Takes forever. But and once you get all this done, making a pie is nothing. It is nothing. There we go. All right. Hopefully my sound's transmitting. Hey, I'm quiet right now, but yeah, this is fun. So after we chop all the apples up, like I said, mix it up how you chop it up. I don't believe in them being, if you're making a tart, then they have to all be the same because that's part of the look of an apple tart, where you're really not doing a lot of the pie crust and covering it. Heh, this is like almost like a cobbler. You just want to toss everything in there. So if that's the case, having a mixed set of apples, shapes, actually gives a lot. So we're going to mix this up after we're done chopping. We're going to add a lot of cinnamon because we're making a big batch. Um, we're going to preheat our oven. I'm not preheating it right now because it gets way too hot. And so hot it will melt that plastic bowl that I have on top of my oven. So my oven's off right now. But the moment we start doing the next step, I will turn it on. Um, we will add our tapioca, which is our thickening agent. You can use flour. If you're going to use flour, make sure it is not self-rising flour. Self-rising flour is evil. No, it's not. It's you only need to use self-rising flour if you are leavening something, and you need to be careful how you use it because it can ruin certain things um, with salt. And so it's not salty, it's just the chemical reactions that happen with self-rising flour. If you don't know what you're doing with it, they can be it will just ruin your dish. So you do not want to use self-rising flour in apple. You just want all-purpose flour. You can use bread flour if you want. Um, that is a thickener. You can use cornstarch. Cornstarch is the thing that a lot of people use when they make an apple pie. Um, but that's pretty much, you know. But like I said, I discovered how the stores make their apple pies look so good. Although I don't think they taste as good. They just look amazing. And they have that glazy, gooey look to them. And that comes from tapioca. And you want to use really small tapioca. And there's a specific version that you buy. It's made by Minute Maid, and I'll show you guys in a second. There we go. All right. I'm going to do some long versions of this. Just take this up here. And yes, for those of you wondering, yes, I had already wiped down my countertops. So I actually do everything in this little small corner here. I'll make bread. I will knead dough, um, just because it's so close to the oven. That is my dream, though, is to have an island in my kitchen. To have a house that supports an island in my kitchen. That would be dreamy. Because then I would be able to like slide around and it's almost like a choreographed dance. Hey, I can have visions in my head, can't I? There you go. All right, we're right at enough for two, and that's where I'm going to stop because we're filling our bowl. Most likely I will do this again with another bowl to make third pie, but this bowl can only support this. I'm adding all the remaining orange juice in here. We're mixing, 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 coating, coating, coating. Yes, yes, yes. Say it with me. Yes, yes, yes. And excellent. All right, we're going to put some things to the side and eat my little top of the apple. Wash my hands a little bit. Good. All right. Oh, my little thing is sliding around. Um, so what we're going to do now is we're going to preheat our oven, and then we're going to get all the other things to mix into the pie and start the process. So preheating the oven to 450 degrees. Yes, you heard me, not 350, 450 degrees. We want that oven hot, H-O-T. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn it down as we put that. Seriously, y'all gonna make fun of my PJs? Seriously. Y'all gonna make fun of my PJs? Yes, I'm wearing PJs. It's Christmas time and I'm at home. Seriously, my gosh, y'all are mean. Uh, anyway, so we're getting our we're getting our salt. Where is the salt hiding? Here we go. You're like salt? Yep. Salt wakens up flavor. Um, let's see. We need our pie plates. So we need the super ginormous pie plates. That's one of them. Be the third pie. And where is our super ginormous pie plates? There they are. So, see a couple of you have joined. Hey, welcome. We are making apple pies. Like I said, we started by chopping up apples. And now I'm preheating the oven to 450 degrees. And now we are ready to start the next phase of making what we're making right now. And just seeing if there is any questions. He's like visions. Yes, thank you. Um, Lauren, we need a third pie. Is this a official campaign for the third pie? And I'm gonna yes, we'll do this. I actually haven't figured out where I got this. It's now become my favorite spoon. I believe I got it from Walmart, but I've been looking for this because what it is, and I'm going to come up closer, it is actually a spatula spoon that's up to temperature resistant to 450 degrees. So because of the nature of it, you can actually use it as a bowl. And one of the nice things is I would normally use a spatula to stir, and one of my normal spatulas right here. This is a stirring spatula as opposed to a glazing spatula that you would glaze a cake with. This is very important to cook, but I like this bit better for apple pie because what will happen is this will allow me to scoop apples much easier. And so I still have to figure out where I found this at, and I'm 90% sure I got it from Walmart, and it's one of the Pioneer Women's Connect collection or something like that, because I haven't seen it again since I got it. So here's what I'm doing. Oh, let's switch the view. Yes, y'all can't see. Um, I'm hoping y'all can see now. And so we have all our apples right now, and I'm just mixing them up. It's easier to mix in this thing. And then we are going to add, typically it is 2 teaspoons, but I know it by eye, of cinnamon. So you're like, oh my God, he's just adding cinnamon. Cinnamon is strong, but this is 2 apple pies right now. So I actually add enough till it is lightly brown coated. That's I can say lightly brownly coated. Light brown coated. You'll notice that you're not seeing as much liquid because some of that orange juice has absorbed into the apples. And that's fine because the moment you add sugar, which is our next ingredient, white sugar, it will start releasing water. So that's the next thing we're going to go get is our white sugar. Let's put all things on the other side of the kitchen. And this I do not eyeball because there's a measurement between that and the tapioca. So this size is going to be about 2.5 cups of sugar. And heap it, baby. It's 2 because it's a little 2.5, so I should do it. Wiped out a lot of my sugar. Let's get that view easier for y'all to see. So as you can see, it gets a little difficult. And sometimes you can't stir because when you add the sugar, it like puts friction. Don't worry, just leave it be. Just mix it as much as you can and then just leave it for a second because then the liquid starts coming out. And it is here at this point you add your salt. So you need a pinch of salt. That's it. Salt activates the tongue, and so you don't want your pie salty. You just want a pinch so that it adds that extra activation in your tongue when your guests eat the pie. They don't even know that there's salt there, but you do, and you know. I'm adding a little bit more cinnamon because I can tell. It needs it. And then um, I use cinnamon stuff to taste, you know. I like it so that it is a light brown sheen. You notice now? I don't know if you guys can see right there. There's this goo coming out. That is the water from the apples. The moment you add sugar, you're going to get a lot of liquid coming out of this. And so to counteract that liquid, we need a thickening agent. So now that it's coming out and you can stir, and you do want your sugar properly stirred into the apples. It's time to add the thickening agent. And what is that? That is Minute Maid tapioca right here. I hope you guys can see that. Minute Maid tapioca. You can get this in pretty much any grocery store. It's pretty much a standard staple. My oven is preheating. And so, and you use the measurements in there. So for every 3/4 cups of sugar, it's 2 tablespoons of tapioca. So my tablespoon. So I have added, so I'm going to need 6 tablespoons, and they can be heaping. This is not an exact measurement. 2, 3, and the reality is I could have 4, 5, 6. And so I could have actually added half a cup of this. I'm going to add a seventh because I think it needs a little bit more. Because you're like, how do you know I could have added half a cup? Because 3 tablespoons is a quarter cup is a quarter cup. So since I'm doubling that, it's almost half a cup of this. So um, I can tell because now you're seeing a lot of liquid. Now it's that goo. Yep, yep. And because this is a lot in here, and I can tell there's not enough of the tapioca beads in here, so I'm going to add yet another tablespoon because I think I added a lot more sugar than I talked about, so that's fine. I've done this so many times I can tell when there's not enough tapioca. And what happens if you don't add enough? You just kind of have a liquidy pie. It's going to taste great. It's just not going to be thick. You want just a right level of thick. There we go. Now you can see inside here, you can see pretty much a coating of tapioca everywhere, no matter where you stir. There you go. And that's it. This is an apple pie. And if there's not enough cinnamon, now is the time to add it. I believe there is enough. So we are ready to go to the next step. So I'm going to move this out of the way so we can talk about pie crust. Yes. So I'm a big fan of Pillsbury pie crust. Not the normal store-boughts, like the generic. They actually taste different. A lot of the generic things do not taste different. Pie crust is one of those where that doesn't happen. They actually taste really different, and the store-bought pie crusts to me have tasted awful. Pillsbury pie crust tastes amazing. So I have this set I got from Sam's because I knew I was making a lot of pie. This will make 4, but I actually have an old set that I don't know where I did with it. Thought I brought it out here. You want to bring it out as you're making pie so it can come to room temperature so you can stretch it. Uh, what did I do with that? I thought I had already. Oh, there it is. I see it. It's just all over the place. Go. So here's the original 2 that I had. That's how they typically come. But like I said, Sam's happened to have this set. And it's really cheap for. Normally these boxes here have been like $4 or $5 since the pandemic. They're normally 2 something, and they've like doubled in price. I don't know why. Because this is not a mysterious compound. This is flour and butter. That's it. Flour, butter, and water. That's how you make a pie crust. So right now I have these mega dishes that I got from Bed Bath & Beyond. Um, and so I love them because they make an enormous apple pie. So when I have a lot of people coming over, I will use the mega dish for the pie crust. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to use my Pampered Chef dish for the third pie, which we will not be on when I make that. So what you want to do is you want to unfurl. Because this is a mega, this is a 10-inch pie pan. And I loved finding this. Actually, on some period of time, Walmart sold these. What you want to do is you want to cover, because this is so big, you're going to need to stretch your pie crust to fit. That's why you want to bring the pie crust out at room temperature, and that's why that's important. And refresh. Uh, I really wish the chat would show up, but it is not showing up. Uh, there we go. It's just trying to make sure. Uh-oh, there we go. Ah, there we go. Oh, that's what I needed to do to see all of it in one fell swoop. So what we want to do is you want to get that echo off. Okay, that's what I needed to do. You learn. I just got the beeps telling me my oven is now preheated to 450 degrees. We will not bake it at 450 degrees. That will create burnt pie. That will create a giant circular piece of carbon. You do not want a giant circular piece of carbon. We will actually bake it at 400 degrees, which is still high, but that's the best way to do this. Especially, and if you have a convection oven, you bake it at convection. That will create a perfect golden look to the pie. So as you can see, what I've done is I've stretched it all the way to the top by holding it, and now I can just push down without ripping. That's why you want this at room temperature, because once it's at room temperature, you can stretch. And then it's not at room temperature, you don't get the stretchy stretch. There we go. There we go. And then you just want to push that out. You can actually let the air out by lifting the sides a little bit. That will let that air that's behind it go. And stretch, stretch, stretch. Yay. I had a little rip at the top, but we can always put that together. There we go. There we go. Now we're good. So that's first pie pan. How hot is it up here? Okay, it's just when it's close to the end. We'll bring the second one in. Put up our tapioca. I always like to put these in Ziploc bags before I store them up inside of my cabinet. All right. Second pie pan. I almost feel like the Count from Sesame Street. One apple pie. Ah, 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 ah. Two apple pies. Ah, ah, ah. Yeah, I tell dad jokes all the time. I'm just trying to keep it together. Uh, and no, I don't have kids, but I love kids. Uh, and I do torture them when they're around with dad jokes, because I can. That's, as most of you parents know, what is the one of the great benefits of being a parent is you get to torture your kids with things like dad jokes, um, and have them roll and tell you how you don't how you uncool you are. There we go. All right. And so we're stretching, 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 because again, this is the mega dish. Mega dish. Here we go. As we stretch, make sure it touches the bottom, and then lift to the side to let that air out. Okay, I am getting, what is the vibrations? Oh, yes, that's right. There we go. Let all that air out, because now it's almost at the bottom. There we go. And let that air out. There we go. Yeah, by doing that, now we have pie crust. Dun dun dun. So we are going to bake these on two separate rows. And so before I put the pie in flute, we're going to put some aluminum foil onto these baking sheets. You'll see them right here. Because the purpose of the baking sheets is again to keep that spillage to a minimum. So we're going to use two of these because you don't want to have to clean this up after. You don't want to clean up the mess in your oven. It's just not fun. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, you just don't want to clean stuff like this up. It is not cool. go. The right angle. Thought I had a camera view here. There we go. Just want enough just so it's there. Because then what you're going to do is you actually need to set your pie plan in here. And that way you don't have to lift it up because there's a lot of liquid coming out. So there we go. I'm going to put that back here. I'm going to put you right here temporarily. And now we are going to bring in Apples of Awesomeness, which have liquid goo galore. Yes, this is liquid gold in there. I'm going to do the close-up view. Um, and look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Uh-huh. It's gold, baby. Okay, I gotta get my little wristband thing to hold still. So what we start with is you want some of that liquid at the bottom, but first you're going to use this. See what I mean? I love this pan. I love this spoon because I can now bring the apples in, start bring them in. And if you make a spill, you can clean it up. You just grab apples and layer, and you're just doing some light layering because it's going to all mix together and produce more liquid. You do not want too much liquid at the bottom, so that's why I like this slotted spoon, because then I can control the liquid a lot. And you want to add enough apples, and I've actually noticed that I need 2 more apples in this, because even though this is enough for 2, it's already, the water is already reducing, so I actually need to cut a few more apples, um, probably 2 more, to add to this, which is why you make it this way. Because what you need is the apples need to heap, like form a dome over this pan. Yep, see that? We're making a dome. So it heaps. You see how much I have left? It's not even much left. And so I'll actually cut 4 more apples. It's not a big deal. And that's the kind of dome you want, almost like a teepee. And then once it's this high and you're like, oh my gosh, it's that high. Yes, it needs to be this high for a reason, because what's going to happen is it's going to come out. Now I've noticed that there's a little too much liquid in here, so I'm going to actually pour some of it out back into the bowl because I'm going to be cutting more apples. So they will just, and the beauty is when I cut more apples, I do not need to add more sugar or anything like that. It's already there. And I don't have to add any more tapioca. So just gonna finish this up. There we go. You just want everything inside the edges of the pie before you flute. What is flute? That's the fancy word for how you cover the pie. So now that I have those 2 there, I'm gonna open my fancy big box of extra pie crust from Sam's and pull one of these out. And now we flute. And so there's many ways of fluting. You can use a fork to cover it. I'm a new fan of the press-on method. These are not like your nail press-ons. Um, I'm a big fan of that. So when you're going to do the second pie crust, just put it this way, and that way you can roll it over the apples. So the key thing is for any fluting is you need to make sure you stretch. That's why, again, I told you the pie crust needs to be brought to room temperature. You want to stretch the pie crust all the way over the edges. See like that? So stretch it over because that's how we're going to handle it. And turn so that you can stretch. There you go. Turn, stretch, turn. So most of this is already good, but it needs that way. And this end right here needs some stretchage. There we go. So that's over. And if you have pieces of apple sticking out, push them, stick them back in. Let them stick out like that. Little piggies. They don't need there. And turn. Right here is the only other part that needs to be stretched. All right. Once you have your pie like this, flute. So I am a fan of fluting this way. You pinch, you bring your index finger in and pinch. 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 Somebody should come up with a song or a meme for that. So I'm going to go a little bit faster because I need to have a meeting in 6 minutes. So go.
go. See? Just flute. This is fluting. You could do a lattice. That's fancy. I have never done a pie lattice before. That takes some time weaving. See, notice I have a few pieces of apples, so then you lift and put them back in, and then you flute, and then you lift and pinch. There you go. And now we have our apple pie. So all that's left to do is the last thing is you need to let it have let air because otherwise you're going to get a bomb. And so how do we do that? We cut. Start in the middle, cut an X in the center. Then in equidistant things, poke holes like that. That's it. That's all you got to do. I need one more right there. That's it. And now there's holes, so the steam from the pie is going to be there, so you don't want it to explode. It's not going to explode. It's just, it will blow the top and your pie just looks terrible. And that's it. Notice I'm keeping my aluminum foil kind of like it is a, um, a tent, just like that, so that all the liquid comes in the center. And that's it. We are going to change our temperature to 400 degrees. And because it's at 450 right now, so it gets that blast of cold, and I'm actually setting it to 400 degrees convection bake because I have a convection oven. Uh, and it'll come down, and that's it. Then we just put our pie, and put it in the main screen, remote. There we go. Hey everybody, just put it in the main and switch to the camera phone so you guys can see what this looks like. There you guys go. That's what this looks like here in the oven. See that? And I'm going to keep that on the top rack because the next one is going to go right there. Just put it in, and it will cook until you start seeing a light set of goo coming out of it. It's usually about almost an hour. That's all it needs. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to pause. I'll come back. I have to have a meeting. And then I'm going to come back and we'll make some more stuff. All right. It's been good seeing y'all. Take care.